My name is Nate Mickle. You're listening to Mickles and Dimes, where every episode is dedicated to the simple, practical, and underappreciated. Scott Kaufman is a psychologist, coach, professor, keynote speaker, and best-selling author. He's a professor of psychology at Columbia University and director of the Center for Human Potential. He also hosts the Psychology Podcast, which has received over 30 million downloads and is widely considered among the top psychology podcasts in the world. Scott's writing has appeared in The Atlantic, Scientific American, Psychology Today, and Harvard Business Review, and he is the author and editor of 11 books. In his most recent book, Rise Above, Overcome a Victim Mindset, Empower Yourself, and Realize Your Full Potential, he explores the limiting beliefs and widespread anxiety that puts people in boxes, lowers expectations, and holds them back. In addition to teaching at Columbia, Scott has also been a professor at the University of Pennsylvania and NYU. Scott received a BS in Psychology and Human-Computer Interaction from Carnegie Mellon, an MPhil in Experimental Psychology from the University of Cambridge under a Gates Cambridge Scholarship, and a Ph.D. in Cognitive Psychology from Yale. I hope you enjoy learning from Scott Kaufman today. Scott, great to connect today. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
My absolute pleasure, Nate.
This is an easy question for you because I'm sure you don't have many things you would want to say as I ask this very narrow question. Is there an experience you've had where you think, I learned something from this experience that I would most want to pass on to others?
It's a pretty softball question for
Yeah.
me. I grew up being placed in special education as a kid because of an auditory learning disability, and always felt that there was greater potential for me and the friends I had in special ed, and that was not being recognized. And as I got a little bit older and I started to really get obsessed with reading psychology books and books about intelligence and IQ, I started at a very young age started to formulating a new theory of human intelligence, which I finally presented in my book Ungifted in 2013. And so based on these experiences and kind of fighting my way out of special ed and trying to prove to people that I was intelligent and capable, and also just loving learning, and discovering I loved learning, and I was excited to finally get the opportunity to learn. I formulated this theory of intelligence where I define intelligence as the dynamic interplay of engagement and abilities in the pursuit of personal goals. So the big takeaway there is that there's a certain type of intelligence I think we only see when we give people a chance to go deep into an area that they love over a long period of time and develop expertise and brain structures that kind of override our IQ limitations. And I just think there's far greater potential in all of us than we realize. And so that probably, in a nutshell, would be what I would offer.
Such an interesting perspective. And what sort of pushback did you get from
None,
this new theory?
none. I've never gotten pushback. No one's ever pushed back. Do you want to push back?
I don't want to push back, but I imagine so. How does this challenge conventional notions of intelligence?
Well, I have a way of presenting things where I like to rise the tide for everyone. I'm not a, I include IQ and traditional notions of intelligence in my theory. I recognize and acknowledge the importance of IQ and the importance, and for some people, they're very intellectually gifted in an IQ sense, and they deserve resources. I think it's far easier and it's far easier to try to tear down others in order to promote your theory. That's never been my strategy. Probably also, probably why I'm not as famous as others who do enjoy tearing down others to promote their theory as well. Seems like that's the way to get ahead in life. But nevertheless, I have collaborated with traditional intelligence researchers, and they respect me, and I respect them. And really, my theory is less of a like why does everything have to be like, well, what are you challenging? What are you destroying? Why can't we have more theories that are expansive and inclusive? The way I look at it, it includes and transcends traditional metrics of intelligence to allow us to witness the incredible intelligence of people over a longer period stretch of time than a one shotgun testing session where they put a gun to your head and say, "Go solve this analogy."
So it sounds like you're just taking a much more inclusive approach. And so
That's all I'm doing.
the people who would be upset would be like, no, you're being too inclusive. Intelligence needs to be
Yeah.
defined way more narrowly and way more strictly, and you're way too accommodating in your definition.
Yeah, they might say that, well, that's not really intelligence. Um, that what I'm talking about is maybe expertise, not intelligence. But there are some researchers who've called expertise or knowledge acquisition the dark matter of intelligence, and I kind of agree with that approach. I think that why does intelligence only have to be defined by fluid reasoning, which is this kind of intelligence that is what's tapped on IQ tests that really relies on working memory capacity and really makes demands on working memory because a lot of people with neurodivergent ways of thinking, people with ADHD, dyslexia, autism, their gifts don't really show up on an intelligence testing session because they might have working memory deficits that make it hard for them to show their potential. And so I'm all about allowing people to display their human potential in basically giving them a chance over the long term based on something that they actually are motivated to develop.
Yeah, I think that motivation piece is really interesting too, because so often I'll think like if I really wanted to do that thing or know that thing, I could,
Hmm.
but just because I haven't been motivated to know that thing or do that thing doesn't necessarily make me dumb. I just lack the motivation for it.
Yeah, that's a really good. I really like that. The two main elements of the theory was the long-term assessment as well as the dynamic interplay of engagement and ability. It's something special happens when our skills interact with our passions. And if we just kind of view these things separately, we're really missing out on the real power. My colleague and friend Angela Duckworth talks about grit, which is passion and perseverance. So it's along similar lines. There are really special things that can happen when your passion and perseverance are combined. Oh, and I would add your abilities as well.
Hmm.
You can have
Okay,
all the
so
passion and perseverance for wanting to be in the NBA, and that might not help. But you gotta have some skill, buddy.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so how about when it comes to mental ability? I remember getting into an argument when I was a PhD student. A researcher was saying, it was a PhD student, I think, that there have never been any reliable studies that found basically differences in processing power, processing ability of individuals, and maybe it was at like the cellular level. And so now I'm getting out over my skis because I can't remember the exact argument. But in my mind, I was thinking like, well, of course there's going to be some differences in like brain function, and I would expect some differences in terms of natural intellectual ability, just like some people are taller or shorter. Now, that natural ability doesn't necessarily make you smart or dumb, but it probably would impact some of your interests, maybe some of your persistence, some of your abilities, preferences. So, what's your kind of thought on my take that, of course, there are going to be some differences in natural ability and intelligence?
Oh yeah. Well, I think there are natural abilities and talents across many, many, many different areas. I think there's a genetic contribution to music ability, to artistic ability, to fluid reasoning, which is what people tend to equate with IQ. There absolutely is. But finding the thing you love is in some ways tied up with finding the thing that you're genetically destined to become. I mean, I don't think we have to view this as like a bad thing. I don't view genes as a dirty word.
Yeah.
I think genes, getting in touch with who your true nature is one of the greatest parts of the self-actualization journey.
And I felt like the frustration from this PhD student was coming from a place of like, no, we are all equal in every single way that matters. And I'm thinking like, well, no, we're not, but that's okay. Like, it's okay that we're not equal, and it's okay that we have different interests and abilities. And I like your perspective is finding where kind of our interests are and our abilities are, that's a great pursuit. Another thought I had was something I heard, I think it was from Naval Ravikant. He said something to the effect of a great measure of intelligence is whether you get what you want out of life. And I'm curious to hear your reaction to that
Well,
definition of intelligence.
you're saying a lot of really great things. My advisor, Robert Sternberg, is known for his theories of love, but he's also known for his theories of intelligence, including his theory of successful intelligence, where he defines intelligence as, well, whatever it takes to make you successful by your own definition. And who are other people to define your success? Say it's not valid because it doesn't fit someone else's definition of success. And I find something very attractive about that way of thinking about intelligence. And as sort of whatever combination of constellation of personality traits um, uh, whatever unique aspects of your being come together that make Nate Nate, and that allows Nate to reach his goals, his long-term goals. And I think that's, there's something really desirable there about that way of thinking about intelligence, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting to hear your perspective on it as well. Okay, as you've been researching and thinking about this perspective on intelligence, what has most surprised you as you've gone down this path?
I think the thing that most surprised me is that IQ is so predictive of so many things.
Mm,
And when I started off in the field, I thought I was like gonna be on the vendetta against IQ, and I ended up falling in love with the science of IQ and intelligence and the brain, and that's why I became a cognitive scientist. And w- the truth, hit me right in the face, and I was like, okay, how can I develop a broadened theory of intelligence that's more inclusive, but while also acknowledging the truth, because some people had been denying the truth, such as Howard Gardner, who wrote, all with all due respect, he's a legend in the field of education, influenced me to want to go into the whole field. One of my big influences, but he ignores the G factor. He ignores, a lot of realities of what science has found about the nature of human intelligence. He just totally ignores it. And I didn't want to be the kind of person that ignores the truth. So, but a lot of that was surprising to me. I didn't want to find that.
I remember a discussion I had with a different PhD student at the same seminar, and this PhD student said to me is, I don't even care if some of this stuff is true because I don't want it to be true, so I don't believe it.
That's activism. That's not truth.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, it's
know,
not science.
it's not science, that's activism. I mean, activists will say anything to further their cause, and if you present them with data to contradict what they're saying, they will fight even harder to cancel you or silence you. A lot of people who are very well intentioned for equality, I think, don't realize sometimes that the data and the truth is actually a better way of unlocking the potential of everyone than ignoring it. Um, and that's so my approach is like, hey, the truth suggests that we're not all equally potential for greatness and everything, and that's great because that's what makes us unique. That's what
Yeah.
gives us our, unique creative juice, so to speak. And so I think it'll be really beneficial for society to recognize some truths about the fact that being different is not being less than.
Yeah, yeah, great point. And you make a good point too. Like how lame is a world where everyone is the exact same, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
so like diversity does create interest. Like diversity is interesting, and if we remove all diversity, that's lame. That's boring.
I agree. I'm a big advocate of neurodiversity, as you can probably tell, and I think that's the way forward. Um, you know.
Well, this is so interesting for me. I appreciate your ability to challenge conventional notions.
Well, thanks,
And
Nate.
any final things you'd like to share as we wrap up here?
No, I really appreciate. I was really appreciative of this invitation because This has been a theme of my whole life, right? Is how can we unlock the potential of people who, at first blush, it seems they don't have that potential. And I really think that there are so many ways we can do that. And anytime I get an opportunity to talk about this topic, I get excited. So thanks, Nate.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mickles and Dimes. I'm intrigued by Scott's definition of intelligence, the dynamic interplay of engagement and abilities in the pursuit of goals. When we give people a chance to go deep into an area that they love, over a long period of time, they can develop expertise in brain structures that can override some of our IQ limitations. That doesn't mean IQ is irrelevant. As Scott said, the thing that surprised him most as he researched intelligence was just how predictive IQ is. Scott thought he was going to be on a vendetta against IQ, but ended up falling in love with the science of IQ, intelligence, and the brain. Differences in ability are both natural and valuable, and recognizing them, rather than denying them, creates better paths for growth and contribution. Ultimately, unlocking our potential requires intellectual honesty, patience, and environments that allow passion and skill to reinforce one another over time. It's a simple idea. Please take it seriously.